Hello, my name is Luis Valentino. Welcome to this YouTube channel, Soma Group 1. I decided to try my first tutorial in English. I don't know, I want to expand my viewers and my followers, so I'm gonna give a try about tutorials of 3D, 3dsMax, VRay, and everything involved rendering. So I decided to do I have many tutorials in Spanish, all in Spanish, but I decided to do again my most popular tutorials. So I decided to start with these 4 or 5 tutorials. So I'm gonna give it a try and let's see what I got. So in this case, my first tutorial is going to about the tiles map in 3dsMax, this procedural texture. Okay, so let's start. First, I'm gonna create a plane. I'm going to give in size, I don't know, it's not very important the size, but I'm writing 500 centimeters. I'm using metric because I live in Mexico, so I am used to metric scale, centimeters and meters, but it's not very important the size or the units or dimension in this case. I'm gonna open my material library. I'm using my slave material library. I think this is a great tool for creating materials, complex materials. I'm using VRay, but it's the same, but every render engine is almost the same. So I'm creating my basic VRay material, and in the diffuse channel, I'm going to connect the tiling texture, this tiling map. So, okay, there it is. This is the tile maps, and this is a map that I use a lot to create floors. So I'm gonna show how it works. Okay. Double click to view the properties and parameters in the right side. So if you double click in the material, in the VRay material, you're going to see the parameters of the VRay material. So I'm double click on the tiles map, and here I found that there's a various types from the preset type in these standard controls. If you click here, you're going to find all the styles that you have. This running bond. Let me zoom in a little bit. Running bond, common Flemish bond, different arrangement of the tiling. So in this case, I'm gonna use the stack bond, and let's connect to diffuse map, and then we decide the color. You can make whatever color you want, maybe orange, and maybe a little less saturation, like beige color. Okay. Then if you want to change the grout setup, the color of the grout, this line that you see here, these gray lines, well, you click here and you may change the color. Remember, in rendering, it's not a good idea to use a 255 value of white, because when you render this thing and the light and this floor to receive the light is going to create a much brighter white, so it's probably going to burn out this area, and you may have problems with burns areas in your rendering. So it's not a good idea to use the 255 and maybe 200 top for the use of white, and in the same case is the black. Never use the value of 0. Maybe a value of 10 is right, and in the case of white is maybe 200, 210. I don't know. Okay. Well. In this parameter, the horizontal gap, you may modify the size of the gap. So we're going to make it a little more refined. So a value of 0.1 is okay. Most of the cases is a very good value to start. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to apply to the plane this material, and we're going to select the tile and click on the Show Shaded Material in Viewport to see the map in your viewport. So if you don't click here, you ain't going to see the map in your viewport. You're going to see in your render, but not in your viewport. So let's try. Now we're going to a very basic rendering. We're going to create this very basic light, a VRay dome light, and I'm using VRay Next, so I'm clicking on this interactive progressive rendering, and we're going to expand this frame buffer a little bit. So that's it. And I'm not using a camera or a physical camera. It's very simple what I'm trying to do. And maybe if you want to control your exposure in your viewports, you can put a physical exposure here, and maybe with this you can control the exposure of your viewports. So maybe 8. It's okay. 9 or 10. I think 9 is okay. All right, I'm going to close this window. This window, if you don't know how to access, you may press 8 in your keyboard and you will have it. Or going to rendering and environment, there's the shortcut number 8. Okay. So what is the benefit of using this map? Well, of course it's a procedural map, so you can change the amount of tiling, if you want to see more tiles. Well, you can move the amount of tiling, but in here you may want to do this instead, use this tile setup instead of the tiling, because you're going to change the amount of squares that you see here, right? You're gonna use 8. Oops, sorry. And horizontal 8 horizontal and vertical 8. This value that I accidentally move is the color variance. It's a great parameter to make little modification on the color. For instance, if you use 0.1, you're going to see that the color is not the same in all the tilings. So this is a little bit brighter than this. Maybe if we can go up 0.2, there is more visible. There you go. Okay. Now, another part of another thing that I'm using very often and try to get the most advantage of this map is to make a copy and use this one to the reflect channel to create the reflection of your floor. But in this case, I'm going to change the color to white and leave it to black. White, the tile is black and the grout is entirely black, because in this case you can use 100% white and 100% black because we are talking about reflection. And if you know a little bit about rendering or about materials, the white, the way that this reflection works is that if you use white, you create a 100% reflection. This is a most typical process of creating a dielectric material. I think that the name in English is dielectric. I don't know, but dielectric is the opposite of metallic. So we are creating a dielectric material. Yes, the name is dielectric. So in this case, the white is creating the reflection, and the black in the grout is cancel the reflection. So you're going to get a more realistic result if you do this, because in the real world the grout is not creating reflection, or at least is creating very little reflection, and the most part of the reflection is on the tile on the floor, not in the grout. So you need to do this, and of course you can replicate this to your bump channel if you want a more rough appearance. So you can create it to your bump. So in this case, we're going to decrease the number of your output of your bump, maybe 10, 5 or 10, not too strong, and that's it. Okay. So if you want to create a more variance, you can increase this value maybe to 0.5, and then you can have different values. You can do this for a pool. This material very typical that we use in a pool. So maybe, of course, in this case is blue, and you can increase your variance a little bit more. Okay, so basically that's it, and of course you can use texture here in this non-rectangular part of the advanced control, and that's it. If you want to use this map to your glossiness, your specular, you can do it. You can use it, but I think it's not very necessary, because if you're trying to simulate a very neat surface, if you use 1.0 in your glossiness, is okay. Maybe you can use 0.95 to put a little bit of distortion in your reflections, your specular. Or if you want to have different values of glossiness, maybe you can use maybe a gray, 50% gray. Okay, and make a little bit of variance here. In this case, where if you connect to reflection glossiness, you're going to have these different values of glossiness because of your tile map. Always you have to be very careful that you do not use color. Oops, I changed the stack point. Do not use color on your reflection channel and in your reflection glossiness. You don't have to use color. Always black and white. So in this case, you're using this very tiles map to create a variable of glossiness in your material. Maybe you can increase, or maybe you can use a little more white. So there are many tiles. It's going to the reflection is going to be more neat, more perfect, and in the gray ones, the darker ones, is going to be more this distortion, the reflection. It's going to be very distorted, the reflection. So I think that's it. Maybe in this case, I'm going to change the way that we are using the lighting because it's not. You may not see properly all the effects and all the work that we are creating here. Maybe I'm going to change the way we are lighting the lid. Maybe using an HDR. Okay, I paused the video. I did a little modification the way we are lighting the scene. I'm using an HDR, and right now we can observe a little bit more the work that we have done in this material. Now you can see the bump and the change of glossiness the way you see here, right? And okay, and maybe we can show a little bit more of the you may understand a little bit more what I'm doing. You see how if I disconnect from the reflection glossiness, all the glossiness is the same for all the surface. And if I reconnect, so see how change the glossiness. Here is a little bit more shiny. Here is the reflection is more distorted. So that's if we unplug the bump, so you lose this bump sensation of in the grout and in the tile. So if you connect again, then if you pull the reflect, then we have no reflection. So in this way you can see how this connection work and how we use the tile map to create a floor more attractive. And of course you may change the style. In this case I'm using the stack bond. You may change to English bond or half running bond, and of course if you do change this one, you need to change all of it. If you come on Flemish bond, you have to go to the tiles, to the reflection amount. You use common Flemish bond, and here you meet. So there you go. Now we have another pattern in your floor, this common Flemish bond, and it looks very, very nice. So that's it. I hope you like this tutorial, and this was my very first tutorial in English. So leave your comments below. So if you want to see more English tutorials, I start this thing of creating English tutorials because we're going to launch some series of videos or training courses in English. So right now we used to, well, if you go to my webpage, thesomagroup.com, you will find a lot of training in VRay or Revit or many other software, 3D software, most of them, SketchUp, VRay for SketchUp, VRay for 3dsMax. We're preparing this training in English, so that's why I started these tutorials in English to announce this new feature for us. We are a Chaos Group Author Design Training Center, so everything you see here is right. I maybe is a good material, is a good teaching material, so you have this guarantee on that. Okay, so maybe the next tutorial is maybe I use this rendering in VRay, analyzing the parameters and how to work properly or using the settings properly in VRay. This one was made in the version number 3.3, I think. So right now maybe I'm going to do it on VRay Next, the new version, VRay Next 4.1 or 4.2. I think this is the one that I have. So maybe the next week I'm going to publish this new tutorial in English. So I hope that you liked this tutorial. My name is Luis Valentino. You may visit my webpage. If you speak Spanish, well, you will find a lot of training for Spanish speakers. But we are going to launch our English training in a few months, I hope. So that's why we're going to create some tutorials in English. Okay, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. So, see you next week.